Hi everyone. I was scrolling TikTok earlier today and I came across this game whereby it was set in like a washroom and there were I think like seven urinals in a line, and in front of some of these urinals there'd be like a stick figure to kinda signify that that urinal's not available at the moment. And the game is kinda, there are 10 levels and you get to pick, given the fact that, for example, maybe the first and the last urinals are occupied, and so you pick like the one right in the middle to go to, and then if you picked the correct urinal, it's kind of like an awareness game kind of thing. If you pick the right urinal, then you can advance to the next level, and they'll just like rotate the two stick figures to see if you have the awareness to pick the right urinal. So I was thinking, it's a bit impractical, the game, because I feel like in real life, to me, the game seems very two-dimensional. It only takes into account the presence of a being occupying a certain urinal. That's the only consideration that you have to, take into mind. But in real life, it's so different. There are several factors that you have to consider if you really want to, practice good pissing etiquette, right? So I was taking a piss in the afternoon, and I started thinking about what these considerations might be. So firstly, it's proximity to the door, to the entrance and the exit. If there are no urinals, if there's nobody occupying any urinals, one could argue that every urinal is the correct choice because you're not really fighting with anyone. But no, I feel like the proximity to the entrance plays a huge role here in your choice of urinals. I would argue that the right thing to do would be to go for the urinal all the way at the end, furthest away from the entrance. And this is because you want to be considerate to the next person who enters. Maybe it's because I'm Asian or something, and politeness is in my blood or something, but you won't want to be the person who takes the very first urinal. Because you don't want them to have to walk past you to piss at another urinal if there's someone who comes in while you're pissing. And also, you don't want to flash them. If you're standing all the way in front, chances are when they enter the washroom, they're just gonna see you pissing. So no. So that's one consideration that someone might have. So that makes the whole thing already non-two-dimensional. It really adds in another factor. And another consideration that I came up with, or not came up with, but I thought of, was the stage at which the other pissers are pissing at. If you see someone, just unzipping their pants, chances are he hasn't started pissing. So you'd want to be as far away from him as possible, because you two are going to be piss buddies. You're going to be pissing at the same time. On the other hand, if you see someone who is, at the final few stages of pissing, they're shaking their shit, wringing that shit dry, they're zipping up, buckling their pants, I personally think that the right decision would be to continue walking towards them, but at a slower pace, it kind of sends them a message that, hey, I want to use a urinal that is closer to where you're at the moment. And they'll start frantically buttoning up their pants, zipping their stuff. So yeah, there are a lot of different considerations to take into account when you wish to practice good pissing etiquette. And it's not really as cut and dry as some people might say. It's just an issue regarding spatial awareness, but there's other layers to awareness that are at play as well. And only the truly hyper aware people will know which urinals to pick.